Dudes, this episode went freaking crazy. I know last week's episode was a quiet one already, but I thought this one would also be pretty much like that again. Holy freaking cow. Hello listeners, and welcome to A Dash of Salt with AJ. I'm your host, Ahsoka Jackson. Let's move forward. Okay, so when I was reading the manga for last episode, I was trying to find where Mappa left off, which was tricky because they're reorganizing things a bit. And I ended up reading a little into this section. They had some flashbacks with Reiner's mom, so I stopped there when I realized it was getting into episode 3 material. Anyways, I considered actually cutting this segment of the podcast, but one thing I've said before is that this season of AOT is meant to touch on real life stuff even more than the series already has. And we're going to face tough topics. I'm not saying I'll even try to address everything, but I also don't think I should withdraw from sharing my own unique perspectives and contributions here, and just stick to the lighter, more entertainment-related stuff. I mean, this season is already destined to get personal as heck for me, and we're not going to be able to avoid certain convos if we're serious about really examining the story and characters, so I'd only be delaying the inevitable anyways. So, that dynamic with Reiner's father reminds me of something I've noted before. The fact that someone is willing to sleep with you, or even ends up having children with you, does not automatically mean that they aren't hostile towards your people, possibly including you yourself. Heck, sometimes warped racial psychology and dynamics are why they want to sleep with you in the first place, and other times they basically just see you as an exception to the rest of your people. Look, sex itself already doesn't automatically equal love, nor is banging someone a magical cure for your freaking racism, despite what jacked up, insulting Hollywood movies might want you to believe. If that was how it actually went as a whole, the world would have been in way better shape already, okay? It's bull. Attack on Titan has always had a brutally raw, honest portrayal of real life, and I'm glad they were actually willing to go there again like that. That was heartbreaking, but I think it's such a good thing to confront. That's actually a topic my friend Elizabeth touches on in her book, as part of the character development that goes on in this series. The relationship between our protagonist and his granddaughter is a really unexpected touch, but such a good one, and so very well written, as is the book as a whole. By the way, I should clarify that I don't think it was solely a heritage angle with Reiner's father. It was partially that, but there's also just the element of classic human failings. How frequent is it that folks sleep with each other, but then they get shocked when the reproductive act leads to, ta-da, reproduction, and there's a child to consider. Also, he wants to badmouth Reiner's mom now? When I was watching the episode, I was like, she wasn't an Eldian devil back when you're still screwing her, right? But back to what I was saying. I think we also saw how there's this element of unfair blame, I guess, and the stories people tell themselves. Maybe Karina even knew she was lying to herself, but she took comfort in the false hope. Even if she'd been Marleyan, I seriously doubt Reiner's father would have married her or claimed the child. I doubt she was anything more than a fling for him. But she blames it on her heritage and its connection to the Eldians and Paradis, and scapegoats them. And Reiner himself believes it, which is the biggest tragedy of it all. And while Reiner's father rejected him, his mother was also bad-mouthing their people quite a bit herself. I feel like that itself is just going to add to giving your child a complex. And the self-hatred element is something I definitely see coming up in real life. It's not that you shouldn't be honest about the sins of your people or of your nation. We actually need way more of that honesty in the world. But what we had there wasn't actually honesty or accuracy. I do need to learn and find out more about the origins of the Eldians, but one thing we've seen here is what Marley itself is capable of. They have a fair bit of devil in them as well, for darn sure. If they could be honest about that, I think things would have had a far more balanced outcome. Like I said, I do believe the truth about what happened with the two nations lies somewhere in the middle of their two versions, and that both have done good or reasonable things, but both have also committed great wrongs against each other, and likely against other nations of the world as well. And man, Reiner. In the middle of this, we have Reiner. It's like what I said in my reaction to episode 2, about soldiers and citizens, and about how we all ultimately get caught up in these larger conflicts and end up paying the price for it. And now we see that's the split developed early on, well before he ever met the 104th. He's a child of both people, and he's not only a citizen of Marley, he's also ethnically Marleyan in part as well. Just the nationality aspect would be enough conflict, but that adds another level to it. And yet, his Marleyan father rejects him, literally talks about running away, Meanwhile, his mother is talking to him about the evil people of Paradise and their shared devil's blood as she tucks him in at night, holding out this false hope to Reiner that if he plays his part, Marley will act right, his father will come love and live with him, and all will be well. Because of course we can trust Marley to do right by them if they serve as useful tools, right? Marley is completely gonna be fair to you folks. Believe it. I can just see a propaganda poster now, with thumbs up and a huge creepy grin, telling them all will be well if they'll just be good citizens. Moving on, it was so weird and wonderful to see Reiner as a little boy. That was jarring though. Dude's built like an ox as a teen and adult, but he was a tiny little thing before the growth spurt. Definitely reminds me of Falco. It's almost like his body got the memo later and decided to give him a look that matched the role he was playing. Like, dang. And it's so odd to think that Annie and Peek are probably about the same age as each other. Annie's been in suspended animation all this time. Meanwhile, Peek already seems like she's a good bit older than others in the group, though I'm thinking she's actually pretty young herself. If they were all 12 at the time, that'd make them 21 now. Geez, Peek feels more like her 30s or maybe very late 20s. And Zeke? Dude, I almost didn't figure out who he even was. He sort of looked like a cross between Colt and Reiner and Falco back then. So odd seeing him at that sort of in-between age. And I keep saying weird or odd, but don't mistake it for a minute. It feels strange to see all of this, but it's a wonderful sort of strange. It's in the best possible way. Getting all these flashbacks and character moments, especially from a side largely kept hidden from us up until now, is such an incredible feeling. They had Annie here. Annie was great this episode. It was kind of hilarious how they're trying to talk about heroics and loyalty and all of that, and Annie was legit like, huh? Didn't hear you. That little brat. We know darn well that she's the one who's always just quietly watching folks, like how she watched that confrontation between Jean and Aaron in the dining hall. But it's like Annie just isn't here for your mess. She's not like Reiner, that's for sure. I mean, she was done by the time she started. Just straight tired already. Her eyes, that expression she has, it really suits her. Meanwhile, we get to see that Galliard, or Porco to be more specific, was always like that. And Reiner has apparently been threatening to report folks to their overlords since he was a kid. I guess he figured out what an effective persuasive technique that is, eh? You get the sort of contradiction or paradox in wanting a loyal double agent, though, right? And then we find out that Galliard's brother, Marcel, basically gamed the system and that Reiner technically shouldn't have gotten the position that he did. And the mission they were on got botched from the very beginning. It's like life took one long look at Reiner and decided, nah, I don't like this kid. Meanwhile, Annie got in some verbal and physical shots this episode. Wow, you finally managed to beat me in a race. Ouch. And speaking of ouch, I expected to see her hit him, but I wasn't expecting a beatdown that brutal. I know he heals up well due to the Titan powers, but that was still a little hard to watch. Though it's nice to see him get the upper hand afterwards, because not many people can get the drop on Annie, I'd say. We're all just one big, happy Eldian family right here. Nothing to see, folks. And I know Reiner was criticizing Bertolds later on for being so lukewarm, but he definitely seems like he was in some ways the most steady and stable one of the group after Marcel was eaten. Actually, it feels a little fitting that Armin is going to be the next Colossal, although Armin does have some panic and self-confidence issues. Anyways, it was also really great to learn more about what those three were actually up to over there. I thought things were more planned out, and I didn't realize that Reiner was sort of improvising parts of the plan like he was. It also makes me wonder at which point Zeke was called upon there. I'm definitely going to have to go back and re-watch or read the material from those sections of the story. Thanks for hanging with me today. There's a whole lot of character and story stuff to consider here, so this is going to take a few episodes to cover. I hope you'll join me again soon. In the meantime, if you're enjoying the show, please don't forget to subscribe for updates and leave a like, share, review on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or whichever platform you use to listen. Be blessed and stay salty.